Total Sports Central will be over an NFL game preview and prediction on the 2021 wildcard round matchup between the New Orleans Saints and the Chicago Bears, two teams that have had very interesting seasons, as the Saints are coming into this game as a 12-4 team and the 2 seed in the NFC. As for the Bears here, they're 8-8 and they're the final seed to get into the NFC for the playoffs, but this is still a Bears team that you definitely don't want to sleep on heading into this postseason. So it's going to make for a good matchup here. Bring over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with their team trends. Last game for New Orleans, they beat Carolina in Week 17, 33-7 being the final score there. All around good win to finish out the regular season for the Saints, as even though the Panthers are not a very good team at all and they were super beat up in that matchup, that's still a good win to finish out the regular season. And the Saints did have a blowout win over Minnesota, 52-33 in Week 16 as well. So the Saints are looking pretty good coming into this matchup. As for Chicago, they lost to Green Bay 16-35, and that's a bad loss, but considering how good the Packers are right now, I would not say that's a half bad loss for Chicago there. But for the winning streaks of both these teams, New Orleans is the 2 seed in the NFC, 12-4 record with a 2-game winning streak. And then as for Chicago, they're 8-8 with a 1-game losing streak, and they are the 7 seed. It's going to be on Sunday, January 10th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern in New Orleans. Spread currently says Saints by 10. ESPN FPI is going Saints heavily here, 79%. And then your Vegas prediction is going to be 38-28. New Orleans is the current favorite, and I think the Saints are also, or I think they've got the most widespread out of any team or any matchup in this wild card round. So the Saints are favored the most to make it into the divisional round coming into this weekend. But I mean, this should still make for a good matchup here. I think the Bears are definitely a team not to sleep on. I mean, down the stretch, the Bears have actually been very improved, and even though they took a pretty bad loss to Green Bay in Week 17, down the stretch, I mean, this team blew out Jacksonville, and I understand the Jaguars are god-awful, but they also beat Houston 36-7, and they beat Minnesota down the stretch as well. So really, I mean, the Bears are looking pretty good coming into this matchup. They're on a decent down the stretch as well, as the Bears have won 3 of their last 5. As for the Saints, so they've also won 3 of their last 5. They had a tough matchup against the Chiefs in Week 15, and they also lost to Philadelphia in a pretty bad loss there in Week 14. So all around for the Saints, though, it's still been a great season, and even though they've dealt with some injuries down the stretch, this is definitely a team that I think is capable of winning the Super Bowl this season. The Saints, this is a team that has had Michael Thomas be injured a lot. Drew Brees has been injured. I mean, of course, he had several fractured ribs. And then if you look at, this New Orleans team in general, for them to be 12-4 is honestly a semi-half miracle here. If you look at the Saints here, this is, once again, a team that's been so beat up all season long. For them to even be 12-4 and a 2 seed in the NFC right now is still very impressive. And when the Saints are a healthy team, this is going to be a very scary team moving forward. And I definitely think the Saints are capable of beating Green Bay down the stretch. Here's a stat comparison for this game. The Saints currently have their top quarterback being Drew Brees. He's put up nearly 3,000 yards with 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Not been a bad season for Drew Brees, even though he's been pretty injured and he was out for a few games down the stretch. But, we've also seen a good showing out of Taysom Hill, the backup quarterback. So that's going to be good for the future of the Saints to see that Taysom Hill can play pretty well as a quarterback. But as for the running back core here, got Alvin Kamara, of course, who's put up nearly 1,700 yards with 21 touchdowns. He's going to be questionable for this game here. You also got Latavius Murray, who put up a good season, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. For the receiving court, top one's going to be Emmanuel Sanders with 738 yards, 5 touchdowns. And then your top tight end in your second in receiving yards is going to be Jared Cook with 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. And once again, Michael Thomas has been injured quite a bit this season, but if he's going to be healthy, he's going to be a huge impact player for this game. As for the Bears, they got Mitchell Trubisky being their top quarterback right now. And of course, we did see kind of a switch at the quarterback here in the middle of the season. We did see Nick Foles play for a little while in there, but Mitch Trubisky, ever since he's gotten back into the starting position, he's actually been playing halfway decent as the Bears quarterback, as he's put up over 2,000 yards in the year with 16 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. As for the running back core, they got David Montgomery leading that out with over 1,500 yards with 10 touchdowns. Top receivers, Allen Robinson with nearly 1,300 yards and 6 touchdowns. They also got Darnell Mooney right behind him with right around 650 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then Jimmy Graham is their top tight end, and they're third in receiving yards with 450 yards and 8 touchdowns on the season. Some key points for this one: Saints have had a few injury issues, but have got huge upside, and we were talking about that earlier. The Saints, even though they're 12-4 here, this is a team that's got huge upside. If they're a healthy team, and if they can have most of their players back, most of their starters back, this is a Saints team that I definitely think could beat the Packers down the stretch and could easily make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, even though they're so beat up, like, it is still very impressive to me that this beat up Saints team has been able to make it to 12-4 and the 2 seed in the NFC. I mean, that's going to be huge for them coming into the postseason here, is having a good seed. That's going to be very important for them. But as for the Bears, I mean, they are 8-8 here, and they played well down the stretch, so you can't forget about them for sure. They're not a team to sleep on coming into this matchup, and certainly for New Orleans, it would be pretty tragic for Drew Brees and this entire team if they did take a loss to the Bears in this game, because, I mean, this is probably Drew Brees' last run as an NFL quarterback. He's more than likely going to retire this offseason. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge postseason for him and a very important game for him moving forward and seeing whether or not he can win another Super Bowl. But do expect moderate scoring here. I think both offenses should put up a decent amount of points, considering we got 2 decent quarterbacks going head-to-head here, and also 2 great running backs with Alvin Kamara and David Montgomery. But that being said, here's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Saints here in a pretty comfortable win. I think the Saints are going to win this one by at least a couple of touchdowns. The Bears, I mean, down the stretch, they've been really good, but we saw Green Bay completely expose them in Week 17. So I think the Saints are going to come into this game with a really good momentum here, and they're going to get the win 34-20. I also think the Saints, having won 2 really significant games at the end of the season, that's going to be pretty important for them coming into this game as well. They've got a decent amount of momentum coming into this game against Chicago, so I'm going to go with the Saints here. 34-20 is going to be the final score. Probably will be 65% towards the Saints, so I am pretty confident that we will see New Orleans get the win here. And honestly, this is probably the most, I think it's the most easy game to pick out of this wild card round this weekend, in my opinion. I definitely think the Saints are the most likely team to make it to the divisional round as we head into the weekend. But I definitely think the Saints, though, I mean, if they can have their full ability and if they can have a full healthy team, this Saints team could go very deep in the playoffs this season. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this game. Score predictions, all that, let me know down below. I appreciate you guys all watching this video. If you enjoyed it, slap a like on it, subscribe as well, as it really helps to the channel, and I really appreciate that. But once again, appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys all later.